company dismissed. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Whoa.
And welcome to another edition of the Sky Blues History Podcast with me, Claudio, and of course, our club historian, Jim Brown. Tonight, we've got a very special guest, a man who oversaw one of the most eventful and talked about eras in Coventry City's modern history, former chairman and owner, Bryan Richardson. Bryan was at the helm during our long spell in the Premier League, a period that saw managers like Ron Atkinson and Gordon Strachan in the dugout, and players such as Dion Dublin, Darren Huckabee, Gary McAllister and Mustafa Hadji lighting up Highfield Road. He also oversaw the early plans and decisions that would eventually lead to the move from Highfield Road to what is now known as the CBS Arena, a hugely ambitious project and still divides opinion to this day. We'll be talking about the highs of the Premier League years, the heartbreak of relegation, and the lessons learnt from one of the most fascinating periods in the club history. So settle in. This one's going to be a real deep dive into the Bryan Richardson era of Coventry City Football Club. Bryan, it's fantastic that you joined us and myself and Jim for the 50th edition, which is why we asked you on, didn't we, Jim?
Well, yes. I'm delighted to be here, and times are good as well at the CBS Arena, so let's have a fun evening.
Yes, well, which leads me on to my first question, and we'll talk about the stadium straight away, I think, and get that out of the way. Then we can talk about some lighter stuff. I think the move from Highfield Road to what is now the CBS Arena. Now, the decision to leave Highfield Road was one of the biggest in the club's history. And in hindsight, do you feel it was the right move at the right time? And would you have done anything differently in terms of the stadium project or financing?
Well, there's no question it was the right time to start to move from Highfield Road. And I think that's proved today, and it's been proved since we've been there. The maximum crowd at Highfield Road was about 20,000, and we were struggling to fill it, but the new stadium has made all the difference in the world. And now we're getting 30,000 almost every week, and it can't have been a bad decision. The bad decision at the time, which was after I'd left there, I sound like a Labour politician, don't I? Sort of saying, oh, I blame the previous government. Well, in this case, I blame the Post board, and in particular, the way that it was handled in giving the thing away, in effect, to the council, and that caused years of problems, and it should never ever have happened.
Was there enough money in place in the first place for the move? Did we have enough backers? Because for a lot of people, they probably, it's so far back in their history that people kind of forgotten about the whole saga. So who were involved in the first place for the project?
Well, the key elements at the time was we had to find a major player to buy the land around where the arena was going to be built. And I did that because I got Tesco. And Tesco gave us a fantastic deal for 30 acres or 32 acres. They were paying £66.5 million. And we had an ongoing deal with them where they built out where the filling station, and I think there's a McDonald's and the other shops all the way around there. We were going to get the income from the rental of those as well ad infinitum. And, the way it was handled, I honestly don't know, truthfully, what happened after I'd gone. But it was ridiculous, really, because if the council had stuck with us, the income from Tesco was absolutely rock solid, obviously. And that was what was needed. It didn't have to build, which we were trying to at the time, if you remember, an arena with a sliding roof and so on. But we could have cut it back to what it is now, and that would have come within a lot less than the original scheme.
Did not getting the World Cup have an effect on that? Because were we going to be one of the grounds possibly going to be used in 2006?
But that was only if we built out,
Right.
a big stadium, and we needed about 50,000, I think. And considering we were averaging about 18,000 that last year, the thought of having 32,000 empty seats was not a good idea.
I got one little story to tell you. Back in 95, 96 season, I wasn't very happy with the start of our season, Brian, and I posted you my season ticket because I was angry. Unfortunately,
Right.
I can't find the letter because you actually replied to me, and I thought we hadn't won a game since I think August at home. I was really annoyed, and I sent my season ticket back to you saying this isn't good enough, Mr. Owner. It's appalling. Sort it out, and all the rest of it. The next game, the game that I missed, was the Blackburn 5-0 win.
Oh, yeah.
Typical.
Did I write to you again then and say, did I do a good job or something, or not?
Well,
No.
you did, because when I went to Villa away the next game, we got hammered, I think 4-1 or something, or 4-0. And then I thought, right, I'm still not going to the next home game. And we beat Everton. So I thought, now my wife said to me, you best stay away at this rate. By then, you'd sent me back the season ticket with a good letter saying, you're the kind of supporter we still need at the club, blah, blah, blah. It was a really good letter, actually.
Right.
And I thought, oh, well, okay, I'll start going again, seeing as I've been going since 1970. And I didn't see us win until February at home. So it was a shocking season.
Oh. Well, which year was it? It must have been 96 or 7 when we won 12 games at home. Was that 96 or 7, Jim?
Was that 97, 98, I think?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
And I don't think we won away the whole season, did we?
Oh no, that was 99, 2000. That was Robbie Keane's season.
Yeah.
when they called us the entertainers, didn't they? But we couldn't win an away game.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that was. We went everywhere, and all of a sudden I kept thinking we must win one. And we won. How many were there at home? 19 at home, and they won 15 at home or something, didn't we? 14 at home. Right? So I never understand why sides can go like that with never winning away from home in 18 or 19 matches. It just seems ridiculous.
Yeah, and we had a tremendous side. We had Robbie Keane and Hadji and Chippo and Gary McAllister, and we couldn't. And we even went to Watford on the final day, they'd already been relegated, and we couldn't even beat them.
No, I know. I remember that. It was a hot, sunny day, if I remember it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Brian, just to finish the stadium question. Whatever happened to the 66 million from Tesco?
Apparently it went to the council, and they then took over the building of the stadium. And I've no idea.
Surely that should have given us a share in whatever was going to be built.
Of course. And I mean, Tesco Ian McLaurin, as you know, was a great friend of mine. He had just retired as chairman of Tesco, which is how we got the deal, in effect. And Ian was a great pal. We were at school together and so on. And he couldn't believe what had happened either.
No.
So, I don't know. There was some, I can't remember, but it's a long time ago now, but there was somebody in the council who was very friendly, I think, with Jeffrey Robinson, and I don't know what happened.
No. Are you still under the NDA that you signed when you left the club?
I never signed one.
Ah, okay. So you can talk freely about anything then.
Well, you know, I did a thing on which I think the club organised, and I did, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe now. And apparently it's still on YouTube.
Oh, right.
And it's 2 or 3 hours or a couple of hours of, and I think I've probably explained things quite fully,
Right.
if I can put it like that.
Brian,
So-
can you adjust your screen? Sorry, because you're slowly disappearing. Just
Oh, sorry.
yeah.
Is that better?
Oh, that's better. I can see you now.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So, Brian, perhaps you could fill us in on how you came to be involved with Coventry City back in 1991, wasn't it?
Yeah, November the 9th, 91, and was the date that the thing was done.
Yeah.
I was great friends with Derek Robbins and his son Peter, and we'd known one another since I was at prep school in Coventry and Peter was at prep school in Leamington. And we used to play against each other, and both my brothers knew Derek because Derek ran cricket matches and cricket tours and so on. And he went off to live in South Africa, and he just rang me and said, you know, I'd really like it if you and Peter would take over running the club. And Peter had, I can't remember what he had, but between them, they had about 30%, 30 odd percent of the shares, and the rest were with, you know, odds and sods, really. And so I eventually, I said no at first, and then he came back again later and he said, I've seen you sold your business, so you can now do Coventry. And so I said yes, and that was how it happened. And so I managed to acquire eventually about 70%, 70 odd percent of the shares in the club. But it took about 6 months before that November 91 to acquire the shares. And the extraordinary thing was nobody on the board at the time knew that I was in effect mopping up shares. I couldn't believe it. I got to the final day and went to see John in Jersey, and he was shell-shocked. And he said, I had no idea, which was really quite strange. But that's what happened.
So weren't the board seeing the share transfers then?
I can't remember what happened, but I think we might have held the shares before we put them in. But you'd still expect somebody to,
Yes.
you know, say, oh, somebody's approached me to buy my shares. I knew the share register, but so it just went down the list. And nothing happened until you know, at the final moment, and went to Jersey and saw John, and that was it. And he was gobsmacked.
So was John Poynton a reluctant seller then? He wanted to stay.
No, in a way he wasn't. He was shocked because he hadn't seen it coming.
Right.
But John was a very nice, I liked John very much. And he handled it extremely well. And we even took the club team over there to play Jersey, which John organised and so on. And so the relationship was always good. And as I say, I think John handled it very well, considering it was quite a shock for him.
So was John Sillett still manager at the time, or was Terry Butcher in charge by then?
Butcher was in charge, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What did you make? What did you
John
make?
Poynton sacked John Sillett and brought in Terry Butcher.
Yeah. So what did you make of
John
Terry
is,
Butcher, Brian?
I'm not sure. Did John Poynton sack John Sillett?
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
And George was no longer on the football side.
No.
No. And Terry Butcher he had 2 contracts. And one was as a player, for which he got paid as a player. And he also had a contract as manager. And when his fitness he was really unable to play, although he kept saying, "Oh, I'll be fit again in a few weeks," and so on. In the end, we had to say, no, you cannot go on, and your contract is now purely as a manager. And he contested it, and we ended up tried to settle it and everything, and we ended up going to the High Court in London. And I couldn't believe it. It was quite a funny little story in a way. I couldn't believe it, but the court area outside was absolutely packed with people. And I thought, crikey, I can't believe that just a dispute over somebody's contract and a footballer and so on. What the hell's going on? Anyway, it turned out eventually, we settled the thing on the steps of the courtroom like a good book. But the reason the crowd was there was a lady in court that day called Gillian Tailforth.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Yes.
The Range Rover episode.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that was the reason for the crowd. But it was the same day. I always remember.
Are you sure it wasn't the London Supporters Club?
Yeah.
Queuing up.
No, I didn't think it was that either, but there we are. So, but that and Terry really struggled, and I didn't think that he was capable of managing the football club. And in the end, we parted company. Then Bobby came, I think, didn't he? Did Bobby?
We had Don Howe, didn't we, as a sort of a caretaker manager?
Yes, but Don came up when Bobby was manager, I think. Bobby Gould?
No, Don. You brought Don in to understudy Terry, and then
no,
Terry was sacked
to be the manager, really,
Yeah.
because Terry was really struggling as a manager.
Yeah.
So Don came up to the end of the season.
Yeah.
And Don was manager then, or caretaker manager, for the last game of the season when we played at Villa Park.
Yes.
Yeah. And there was a funny story there as well. Peter Robin, we were 2-0 down in about 10 minutes, I think. Morley scored and Cyril Regis scored, I think. Yeah. And at half-time, we were absolutely, mortified because it looked... And the other 2 teams, I think, were Notts County and...
Luton.
Yeah. Absolutely. And anyway, we go in at half-time and Peter Robbins doesn't come up for the second half. He stays in the boardroom and has a few more noggins. And at the end of the match, the news came through that Notts County and Luton had also lost. So we scraped through, I think, on goal
Yeah.
difference, didn't we?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that memory right?
Yeah, Notts County actually beat Luton to
Oh,
send
was it?
them down and keep us up.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
at one stage, Luton were winning and we were going down, weren't we, basically?
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
can't remember, but I mean, it's 33 years ago. Good.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, the funny thing was, after the match, Peter was definitely struggling with his words, if I can describe it like that. And Pat Murphy came along with a microphone and got Peter, and he said, "Oh, Peter," he said, "you must be absolutely delighted with the results and the other scores going." And Peter, wonderful remark, he said, "Yes," he said, "I've seen the other scores on Semtex." And Pat said to him, "Don't you mean CFAX?" He said, "No, I know what I mean." And that was Semtex. That was quite funny. And that was that last match of the season, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So then you brought Bobby in.
Peter brought Bobby in. I didn't know Bobby. And Peter brought Bobby in, and things came to life, I suppose, under Bobby to start with.
Yeah.
The sign. Oh, sorry, the dog's barking. We had the flying postman.
Yes.
Williams, was it? It was Williams.
John Williams. Yeah.
John Williams. We had. I'm trying to think who the others were around then. There was Stuart Robson came.
Yes.
We
had Mick Quinn.
Quinny came the next season, I think, didn't he?
He came.
Or did he come that season?
Yeah, he came in the November. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And he got about 18 or 20 goals by the end of the season, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember the first game away at Highbury, Quinny got a hat-trick, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
And we won 3-0, I think. And that was quite a shock to go there and win 3-0, I must say.
Yes.
So
what?
Oggy was in goal, and Brian Burrows. Who was left back? It might have been Burrows.
Yeah, Burrows was there, and Stuart Robson, and
well, Stuart got injured at Highbury, if I remember, and didn't play much thereafter. I don't think.
No. We had Rosario.
Robert Rosario, and who else did we have there?
Phil Babb.
Phil Babb came in a bit later.
We had Peter Atherton.
Yes, and Pierce.
And Peter Undlove.
And Nuddy. And Nuddy was the cause. I mean, Peter had left, Robbins had left by then. And we played it, were we top or second after 5 matches or something?
Yeah, we were right up there. Yeah, we were unbeaten.
Yeah, and then we went to Queen's Park Rangers.
Yeah.
And got beaten 3 or 4, 3-0, 4-1.
5.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was up in the boardroom at the QPR, and somebody came in and said, the manager would like to see you. So, and he's asked, could he find somewhere private to have a conversation with you? And I said, yeah, fine. I said, have you got... And he said, well, actually, all our rooms are busy on a match day and so on. So he said, but maybe you could go into the gents. So I go into the gents, and my young son then was 6 or 8, the youngest one then. And I got him outside and I said, you stand outside the door and just say you can't go in. And he said, yes, Dad. And that was that. And Bob was in there with me and he said, I'm resigning. And I said, and he was really pale, snow white and pouring sweat. And it was whatever time of the year, October, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I said, Bob, for goodness sake, I said, you know, the first match or whatever we've lost, been playing well. No, he said, I've had enough. I can't take any more, and I'm going. And so the next thing I know is I have Sam Herman on the phone saying he's coming from West Ham to cheer Bobby up. And I said, well, what's it got to do with you, Sam? You know, it's nothing to do with you. You've got Wimbledon to worry about. Don't come and mess up on my doorstep. Anyway, he came across and he went off with Bobby, and that was that.
Now the rumors, Brian, was that
the Sun ran a story the following week that I had said that I was going to sell Nuddy.
That's the rumor.
And I said to the guy at the Sun, I can't remember his name now. I said, I've never ever mentioned about selling Nuddy. Why on earth would we want to sell him? He's a little jewel for us. And anyway, he said, well, Bob says that you've definitely said you're going to sell. I said, I've never even talked about it with Bobby. Anyway, it ran for about 3 days, this story in the Sun. And how we kept it going, I don't know, but there we are. That was a bit of Bob.
And do you remember that the following week we were at home to Sheffield United, and it was the Sky Live match, and I think Bob was one of the pundits.
Oh, yes, I vaguely do remember that. That was a bad decision, obviously. I think that it was unnecessary, that. But Bob was always quite sort of up and down, wasn't he, temperamentally. But I liked Bob. I mean, he was great company and everything. And, and he had an infectious way with getting players, and he could pick a flying postman, you know. And that was his strength, really.
Yeah. Jim, on that game, Sheffield United, was there going to be a demo? Was there going to be a demo? Was it going to be a demo of that game against Sheffield United?
I seem to remember there was a guy who jumped on the roof in front of the director's box with a banner or something.
Where? At Highfield Road?
Yes. You know, there was like it was the roofs of those executive boxes it was in front of the director's box.
Those executive dungeons.
Yes. And he jumped on that roof. He got on that roof somehow and then pranced in front of the director's box.
And what was he trying to say?
Well, I think it was probably Richardson out.
Oh, probably. Yeah, that would fit.
Yes.
Fit. No, I don't remember that, to be honest. No. I think after a while you learn to forget those things.
Yeah. But when you came to the club, obviously there was the Butcher situation, but how did you find the club as a whole?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing that happened was the club banked with Barclays, and the first or second week they bounced a cheque for £100. This was
Right.
Barclays. And I thought, God, what the hell's going on? You know, that you don't get any support from the bank.
Yeah.
It was the roof on the main stand then, the old barrel roof.
Oh, the
Remember?
sky blue stand. Yeah.
Yeah. That was leaking and was actually, I'm amazed if it passed the safety thing. We still had standing in those days.
Yeah.
And the spine cop end was open
Yeah.
and was all standing. And really, it needed an awful lot doing, which we did.
Yeah.
And built and enclosed all the sides and put the new ends on as well. And redid all the directors, not the directors, the corporate boxes and so on, and put a new roof on the main stand and so on. And, you know, it looked a nice, tidy,
Yeah.
proper football stadium then, whereas when we first arrived, it was really run down. I mean, really run down. I mean, the dressing rooms were terrible, and it just needed gutting almost, which we did. But in a funny sort of way, those sort of things get you going to improve things. If everything is done, it's less fun in a way. But that was a real challenge to build that new stand at the one end, and we put lots of catering in, and they had a Jaguar club at the top, if you remember, and all sorts of, and we moved the Ladbrokes club over to there, put a Ladbrokes shop in underneath it, which funded it, and so it worked. And underneath, we put that great long catering area and bar. And I remember getting a £1 million off Bass if we didn't sell anybody else's beer.
Right.
And that paid for that.
Yeah.
Which nobody knows, or I think we might have got a bit more than $1 million, but we stayed exclusively to Bass beers for 3 years or something like that. And in return, they gave us the $1.5 million.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so that was quite good. We built that virtually for nothing, because we got a grant from the FA as well towards all-seater stadiums.
Right.
Yeah.
So it worked out all right in the end.
So the decision to leave Highfield Road, how did that come about?
Well, really, the decision with I'm afraid, or I'm not afraid to say, was very much mine, because I felt, you know, other people were starting to look at building new stadiums, and Highfield Road was always in need of expenditure because it was an old stadium. And I just thought that we've got to do something to increase the revenues. Our revenues, I mean, you know, Arsenal or Man United were taking on a match day what we took in a season. A season. And, you know, there was no way we could take any more money. And money is the lifeblood of football, because footballers are hungry for money. And they cost a lot of money, not only to pay them, but to acquire them, buy them, and whatever as well. And we couldn't compete. And so we needed desperately to find a way to increase the revenues. And we did a very good deal with, can't remember the name of the builders now.
McLean's.
Was it McLean's?
Yeah, I think so.
No, I'm not sure, but anyway, we bought the old Sky Blue pub and that land around the corner there, on the other side of the road, and bundled it all together to make a decent package for housing. And the deal, people seem to suggest that we'd sold it. Well, more than seemed to suggest, they had outright accused me of selling Highfield Road before it should have been. And that was not the case, because we always had the buyback, and that was crucial to the sale.
Right.
So if they didn't get planning consent, which I knew they would, or two, if we didn't go ahead with the arena, then we could come back to Highfield Road. So there was never a danger there. And we took in 5.5 million, which was enough to kickstart the arena, not the building of it, but all the planning work and, you know, dealing. There was a big travellers camp up at the far end, and we had to find a way to try and satisfy them to move them, because they'd been there since just after the war. And just acquire, you know, all the groundworks and so on that needed to be done, and buy the site. And we bought the site from British Gas, the whole lot, for 2 million quid. The whole 56 acres, I think it was, for 2 million quid. And
Brian, were Jaguar going to be the major sponsors of the stadium to start with? Was that?
Well, Tesco. No, at that time, it was just at the time that Asda was taken over by the American group, Walmart.
Right.
And I remember going to see Ian McLaurin and saying, Ian, I can just see going up the M6 past this site, a great big W hanging over this wonderful site for a hypermarket. And he said, "Oh no, you can't sell it to Walmart, Asda." And I said, "Well, you know, I've also got Marks and Spencers and Sainsbury's as a pair, but they were about 25 million less than the eventual deal. And I never actually got a bid from Walmart." So, but that's history now. But Ian just said, "What will it take to blow the others out of the water?" And I said 70 million. And he said, "Cool, crikey, that's a lot of money, you know." And anyway, we agreed 66.5 in the end.
Yeah.
And I said, "And no chipping on your way to closing out and everything. You can't come back and say, oh, by the way, we've got to spend X on this and Y and so on, and chip the price." I said, "There is no chipping on the price." And he said, "Fine." And that was it.
Very good.
Going back to the football side of things, Brian, you were saying how we're struggling with gates. I may be jumping in here, Jim, but you did put 5,000 extra bums on the seats by bringing in Big Ron. That was a master stroke, wasn't it?
It was a funny stroke because it was an extraordinary deal. And Ron became the Pied Piper, in effect. But he did a good job as well, you know, when he got things rolling along, and people did enthuse about you know, we've got big. Oh, and the fact that he'd been at Villa as well was a plus, and Man United and Oxford and Cambridge. And that was his great claim. He'd been to Oxford and Cambridge, but not the university. And Ron was great. But the deal we did was, I think he got, I don't know, a pound a head or something.
Really?
Over and above his salary. And that's why when he was during the week, he always in touch with the Evening Telegraph and everything, saying, get everybody, come to the game on Saturday. No mention, of course, that he was getting a pound a head or something over and above 13,000 or something, whatever our average gate was. So it suited us, because we got a lot more money, gate money in, and to give Ron a pound a head out of it was a good deal.
Yeah.
A good deal. I don't think there was another manager working in the Premier League at the time on that sort of a deal, but it suited Ron, and he was very good, good for the club at the time, and he just lifted the place, and that was good. That was good.
And I guess he lifted the club's profile, didn't he? Suddenly,
yes,
we're
absolutely
on the back page again.
Absolutely, but internally he lifted everybody, not just the players and the managers, you know, and the support staff. He lifted the people in the office and everything, because he came in and he had a little joke for them, and was a good. He was very charismatic, and he was good fun, and he never once sort of didn't speak to anybody or didn't say hello or whatever. He was good for the spirit of the club. Very good.
He brought in a lot of players, though, didn't he, Brian? I mean,
yes.
were we really able to afford all these new players? Because there's some big stars came in, which we're going,
Yes.
I can't believe we just signed in.
Well, the only reason we could afford them at the time was not because of the club's money, but I'd had a phone call. I remember it on a Friday afternoon. Graham Hover, who was secretary of the club, rang me a few times, and I was looking to move up to this area, and the phone kept going, and I kept answering. It was Graham, and he said, I've had our local MP on the phone, and he wants to meet with you because he wants to put some money into the club. And I didn't know who Jeffrey Robinson was. I'd never heard of him or anything at the time. And so I said, "Oh, is he interested in football or anything?" And he said, "I've no idea, but he never comes for matches, so I've no idea. Presumably not." So I said, "Oh well, you know, I'll see him next week sometime." This was on a Friday afternoon. So I eventually met him, I think, in London, and not I was there, and he was always there because he was an MP and he was in the House and so on, and I was down there anyway. And I met him, and he had a flat in the Grosvenor House, and he said, "I would like to support the club," and he said, "I'm a very rich man, and I'd like to start off by I'll put £5 million in," which was a lot of money then, 30 years ago or nearly, and interest free, and we'll see how it goes. And I kept thinking, I'm sure there's a catch in this somewhere. Anyway, we let him. He came on the board, and he put the £5 million in, and that was the money that was used, which was the reason he put the money in, was to buy players. And at the same time, Derek Higgs, whose father was a very wealthy man, he left money in a trust to support the young people of Coventry, which is where he was based. And I think Derek, we had to go via trustees and all sorts of things to get it, but it was not going to be difficult as such to get it, because Derek it was his father's trust.
Mm.
And so let me just have a quick, I promise it's not gin or anything.
You do Peter Robbins to start slurring.
No, I won't do that. No, don't worry. So Derek put 2 million in as well, or the trust did. And that was the money that we used to try and get a lift into the club. And I think the first one of Robinson's money was Noel Whelan, funnily enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we paid 2 million for Noel.
Yeah.
But you paid over 2 or 3 years, so it was rolling. Yeah. And then there was David Burrows and the two from Palace.
Salako and
Richard
Shaw. Yeah.
Yeah, who were very good. Richard particularly was a good buy for the service to the club and so on. And so gradually the whole thing picked up.
Mm.
And then, I'm not sure, how long did Ron do? 2 years?
Yeah, almost 2 years. Yeah, yeah.
And his father was very poorly at the, oh dear, haven't spoken so much for ages. And his father was very poorly, and it was obvious. And Gordon had arrived by then, and it was a natural progression, really. It was well handled by Ron and myself, dare I say, that Ron was going to be director of football or whatever we wanted to call him. But Robinson got hold of his chum Kevin Maguire at the Mirror, who's a political correspondent, isn't he?
Yeah, still going.
And he blew the story that, in effect, Ron had been, or he tried to push the story that Ron had been sacked, which he hadn't. So, and that caused, and Ron swore blind he'd never speak to him ever again, which was fair enough. And Gordon's arrival was quite interesting, I think. We played away at Leeds, and I've got the feeling we won at Leeds, and Nuddy scored. Did Nuddy score a hat-trick at Leeds?
Is it Huckabee?
No.
We won 3-1 there.
Was it Huckabee scored?
He did score a hat-trick, but I think that's...
He scored a hat-trick at Liverpool.
Noddy did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Huck got a hat-trick at Leeds.
Yeah. But I think that was after Gordon. I think that was after Gordon.
Something, there was something. Anyway, we went there, and maybe we didn't win, I'm not sure. But anyway, on the Sunday morning, I got a phone call at home after the match from Leslie Silver. And Leslie Silver was chairman of Leeds. A lovely man, really, really nice man. And he said to me, he said, Brian, he said, I'm a bit surprised, he said. And I said, oh, what's the problem? And he said, well, clearly you tapped up Gordon yesterday and you didn't mention anything to me. And I said, I didn't know anything about what you're talking about. And he said, I know now what happened. He said, Ron did it. And I said, yes. I said, he may well have done. I said, but I'll speak to Ron. But I certainly didn't approach Gordon and wouldn't do behind your back. And so he said, no, he said, the two of them got together. But he said, I won't stand in Gordon's way. And he said, I think he'd be wonderful for you, which is true.
Yeah.
And so Gordon came down and he started literally quite soon after. And that was the arrival of Gordon.
Yeah. That was inspired, really, wasn't it?
We missed, somewhere in there, we missed out Phil. Neil.
Yes.
Well, actually, Brian, sorry, Brian,
Hmm?
there was a Mercia Sound. The Leamington Warwick Supporters Club had a big meeting with Mercia Sound. And at the time, I think there was a lot of disgruntled fans with Phil Neal for whatever reason. We thought with football was a bit boring. And I'm on the radio and they're going around with the mic. It must have been Stuart Liddell. He was going around with the mic and he came up to me. And obviously, I'm not the reason why you got Big Ron, but I did say, we need to get rid of Phil Neal and get somebody like Ron Atkinson in. and it wasn't long after you got him in. I thought it was fantastic.
That's right. Well, Phil was a really, really nice guy he got tagged, unfortunately, and it gave fans a reason to mock almost, was the thing with Graham Taylor.
Yeah.
And Phil was really. We finished 11th that year that Phil was manager, I think.
Yes, we
11th
did.
or 12th. Yeah, and I felt really bad about that. But once you've lost the crowd, it's very, very difficult to get it back. And and Phil was very, very understanding. And Susie, his wife, was lovely, and he was well admired and well respected by the players. Under normal circumstances, and as I say, if it hadn't been for the Graham Taylor England thing, it gave the fans a reason to sort of have a go. And as I say, it's very difficult to turn it around when that happens. It's not dissimilar, but for a different reason, what's happened at Celtic and so on, it's and at Rangers.
Yes.
Both of pardon me. Both of those have gone through the rigmarole of the manager getting turned. It's hard, very hard.
Brian, I wonder if we could talk a little bit about some of the transfers. Now, I wonder if you could talk about some of the players that we almost signed. I'm aware of Steve Bull, almost joining us. And the other one in my mind is Lennon from...
Yes. Neil Lennon, certainly.
Yeah.
I went to see him. He was it Crewe then?
Would have been Crewe, yes. He went from, Crewe.
And I thought we'd got him. But then the connection went across, and Martin who's gone to Celtic today, Martin
O'Neill.
O'Neill, yeah.
Yeah.
was pinched him from under my nose to go to Leicester.
Was it the Irish connection, the Northern Ireland connection?
So,
Right.
and it was done with Neil Lennon, and
Yes.
it would have been a very good signing for us.
Yeah.
But Martin heard it on the grapevine and just went,
Right.
You're coming with me.
Yeah. He turned out to be a very good buy for Leicester, didn't he?
Absolutely. And he'd have been a good player for us.
Yeah.
Very good.
And
Who was the
Steve
other one?
Bull?
Never really. The Bully was. We tried, but he wasn't going to budge, I don't think. I think Wolves would have sold him, but they would have had a backlash because he was that character at Wolves.
He was.
So that was never really a go. I'm trying to think of any others that we.
Well, I was going to ask you about a certain player I sat behind, Bryan, at a friendly, Mr. Robert Yarney, which
That
at
was
the time.
It
At
was
the
an
time,
interesting few days. That
when we signed him, I could not believe it because he was possibly the best left back in the world at the time.
Yes, it was absolutely. And I went down to Spain, and the chairman and owner of he was at Real Betis, wasn't he? Yeah. Was known as the most evil man in Spain, was the chairman of and owner of Real Betis. And he was about 4'11", 5 foot. And in his office, it was like the inside of a chapel. And there was like an altar and everything. And he sat on a raised dais in front of where us mortals sat. And I had a day and a half with him, and his secretary kept coming in with cups of coffee for him and this. Never once offered. I'm trying to think who it was who came as an interpreter. I got somebody because I knew he wouldn't speak any English, and I certainly didn't speak good enough Spanish. And so I kept sort of looking and thinking, nothing. And anyway, we battled on and on and on, and then he'd say, enough. And we'd be scuttled out, and then we'd come back a couple of hours later, and we'd start all over again, over the price and this, that, and that. Went on and on for a day and a half. And in the end, well, literally just before lunch, I remember, on the second day, he suddenly perked up and said, done. I now take you for lunch. And he spoke English. I'd had a day and a half of this. And he took us to a wonderful restaurant for lunch, and we had a marvellous lunch and everything. And Robert Yarney was a lovely man. He had his agent was a Croatian called Pedo, something like that, who I knew anyway. And that was how we got to Robert. And he brought Robert to us, as it were, because I knew him and everything. And so anyway, we then get Robert on the train to go from Seville, yes, it was Seville, to Madrid to catch the flight back. And we caught the train, which was a wonderful train. We had dinner on the train and arrived in Madrid and flew back. to wherever it was, London or Birmingham, I can't remember, and Pedro and Robert. And that was on the Friday. On the Saturday, I think we played Benfica in the pre-season friendly, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Was it Benfica?
Yeah.
Yes.
And Robert was in and around the boardroom, and everybody was absolutely gobsmacked that we've got this wonderful, wonderful footballer. And I saw the agent in the corner, and he got his phone, and he was, and then he passed the phone to Robert, and Robert passed the phone back, and this was going on. And I thought, I don't know, there's something not right here. Anyway, cut a long story short, Roberto Sanz was the president of Real, and he wanted Robert, and he'd been in touch with Robert Yarni's wife, not with Robert, and she was the one on the phone
Right.
to Robert in the boardroom saying, I don't want to go to Coventry, I want to go to Madrid and play, you play for Real Madrid and not Coventry City, you know. And so anyway, after a while, I said to his agent and Robert, I said, look, tell me straight up what the issue is. And he said, well, Roberto Sanz has been in touch with my wife, and he wants me to go immediately to play for Madrid. So I said, well, you can do that. I said, but they're going to have to buy him from us because we've done the deal and we've actually sent the money to Betis. I then get the man from Betis on the phone saying, I'm sending you the money back. Because he thought then he could get a better deal out of Madrid than the deal with it. I said, no, you can't do that. We sent it and it's in your bank. Deal done. He went potty. Anyway, next thing I know is Madrid send two people over from Madrid, and we meet at the hotel by the airport at Heathrow. And all I remember at the end was that they didn't know exactly how much we had paid. They'd seen the newspaper and this, that, and the other. And in the end, he never played for us, but we made a profit of 750,000 over the weekend. I nearly got an extra 250. We tossed a coin for 250 grand at the end, which I persuaded them. I'd got what I wanted. And I said, I'll toss you for another 250. Anyway, I lost it.
I mean, Real Madrid, it's not like they've won.
They were up for a toss of a coin, though. So
Real Madrid, it's not like they've won anything, is it, really? So why do you want to go there?
Who? Madrid?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But he was a really nice guy, Robert, and a super player. But that was quite fun.
I guess maybe the final question for you, Brian, is, but perhaps you could talk about the circumstances of your leaving Coventry City, because obviously we'd been relegated, and we'd made some interesting signings with a view to coming straight back up.
Right.
Then the ITV deal had collapsed, and we had that situation where after you'd left, your fellow directors, your former colleagues, were saying in the press that the club was 60 million in debt and it was all your fault. Again, a bit like the Labour government.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The most we ever were in debt was 8 million quid to the cooperative bank. That was the maximum level we were at.
Yeah.
The chief executive of the bank was a chap called Michael Woodward, who I first went to 7 or 8 years before, and we built up a really good relationship. He asked if I could introduce him to other football clubs because they were interested in building a book on football. And he subsequently got Chelsea, Manchester City the later owners and so on, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United, and one other one, Leeds, I think. And our relationship with the bank was first class. Where that number came from, if anybody thinks that Coventry City, as a football club, could get a debt of 60 million past auditors and past lenders, they must be mad. I mean, you know, you can't imagine a club with a turnover then of 20 million, which it was,
Yes.
having debts of 60 million.
No.
No bank or lenders would ever give you anything like that. That was just stupid.
So
that was Robinson principally, and I suppose a bit of McGinnity thrown in as well.
yeah. So what was Jeffrey in for at that stage?
Jeffrey was in for 10, but
Right.
his was not part of our loan book.
Right.
So that was not part of it.
No.
And he was, you know, what he used at the end was the old trick, which was, I want my money back.
Yeah.
And if you can't give me my money back, then I'll have to take over the club.
Right.
But
And
but it was a
sorry?
gift, though, wasn't it? It was a gift, though, originally.
No, what it was never prescribed in any defined way. It was interest-free loan to help the club.
Right.
But there was no date on it. That it was interest-free, and it was never the same with the Higgs money. The Higgs money was, you'd call it a soft loan. They were directly involved in the running of the club. So they were a shareholder in the club. Robinson was a shareholder because I sold him some shares. Derek Higgs also was a shareholder. And the hardest thing really was that having brought both of them on board, and McGinnity and Jepson, you know, they went for whatever they wanted to do.
I suppose now, Brian,
but neither Robinson had no idea about football or running a football club, or with his track record in business, he had no idea how to run a business either.
I suppose, Brian, now looking at the club itself, where we are now, top of the championship, unbeaten. I suppose the vision you had almost, it looks like it's come to fruition now, hasn't it? What you thought.
Yes, but after I left,
I mean, 25 years on,
all those myriad of people getting involved, and you know, who didn't know anything about sport, didn't know anything about running a football club or dealing with sports people, and they're very different to business people. And the rules don't apply for business as they do for sport. It's totally different. And not one of them there knew anything about running a football. And the people, I mean, Ray Houghton, no, not Ray Houghton, who was it?
Ray Ransom.
Ray?
Ranson.
Ray
Ranson.
Yeah.
Ray Ransom.
Yeah.
I mean, he should have, but I think he wasn't the controlling interest at the time. But he should have known. But in fairness, I think Joyce Sapala did a very, very good job. It may sound strange, but she kept the place, and her funding and so on, kept the place alive. And she did very well. And she knew Doug, and I think Doug has done a great job. So, you know, it is there. Exactly what I wanted was a thriving stadium, business, etc. And that's what should have happened, because if they hadn't given the stadium away, all that followed would never have happened. Never have happened. And the club would have had a great source of income for the last 20 years. And that's what it cost by giving it away at that time. Should never have done it.
No.
Never. But there we are. These things happen, don't they, Jim?
They do.
Brian, I think we're going to have a part 2. I've got to say, because I want to know about Dion Dublin leaving, Noel Whelan. There's so much more I think me and Jim probably want to ask you. Would you be happy to come back
in
a few weeks for part 2? Should we do that, Jim?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Because I think we did say we think there will be a part 2 because there's just too much.
I'll do it with pleasure, boys.
Yes, because I don't want to skate over things. Because it's
don't forget, you can't keep me up too late. I'm nearly 82 now, you know. So,
you're looking well on it.
I'm battling along. I'm still above the grass. Mr. Peter Parfitt always used to say, "How are you, Parf?" And he said, "I'm still above the grass." And that was his great response. So, there we are. There we are.
If you enjoyed this episode, please
I enjoyed it very much. You got me digging back in the back of my brain. And I can remember most things back at that vintage better than I can last week. But there we are. That's just getting old, I think.
For those listening and watching, if you want to contact Jim, he's at claryborton@gmail.com.
I've got
Jim, did you want to say anything to Brian before we part ways?
Well, you know, I've enjoyed Brian's company for over 30 years. And again tonight, it's been great to hear his stories. And thank you so much, Brian.
It's a great pleasure. And you, Claudio, as well.
Cheers. Thank you, Brian. And hopefully in the next meeting,
keep the Sky Blues going at this rate.
We'll say, Brian, hopefully in the next episode, we'll really find out why Dion left. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there for now. Play up Sky Blues.
But there's only one ultimate word, isn't there?
Well, we'll talk about it in the next episode.
Thanks, Brian.
Right. Thanks,
Cheers,
Brian.
boys.
Thank you. Good night.
Pleasure.
Good night.
Bye.
Company business. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Whoa.